Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.
Hi, I'm Cherry Johnson with Watauga County Arts Council. You know, one thing I really love doing is showcasing various artists in our community. And sometimes they're artists you've heard about and met before, and sometimes they're artists I bet you don't know. And I'm betting that you may not know this one. This is Dr. Cynthia Taylor. Cynthia, you've been in this community how long?
About 21 years.
Okay. And you are originally from where?
That's a long story. My family are Carolinians, and I was born in Houston, Texas. I went to school here and at Illinois State University.
And you came back here to teach at ASU?
Came back here to teach. Hubby got on at ASU. I couldn't get a job selling money, so I taught everywhere I could teach and finally ended up my career at ASU teaching illustration.
Okay, now let's back up and talk about your degrees and why your doctorate is in what?
My doctorate is in art education, and it has a specialization for helping people that have physical limitations.
Okay, so all of your life, or most of your career at least, you've been focused on helping people be artists in different ways. Yeah.
And yes, I've been focused mainly on helping people, kids learn how to go out and teach art to others. So it was an art education background.
That's cool. Now, you yourself are an artist, and you've always been an artist, I would imagine.
Yes.
Since you were yay high, or what?
Yes, with Crayolas.
So what led you into the arts?
Loved it. Loved it. As a little girl moving around, my favorite friend was a box of 48 colors of Crayolas.
Oh, yeah.
And I had a U-Haul moving box. And I could go sit out in the moving box, and with my Crayolas, I could sketch my own house.
So your crayon creations, do you still have some of those?
Oh, no. It's been too much moving and too many years. The exhibit we're going to talk about today goes back to 2007.
Right.
So when I put them up on my Facebook, I thought no one would want any, and I couldn't remember what was the order of the 14 stations that I had drawn. And so I had to go back and get one of the little booklets that we used
let's back up on this a little.
Me.
Okay, now, you as a practicing artist have been going to a local church, United Methodist Church, been United Methodist, and one of the ministers at the United Methodist approached you with a project.
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Okay, it was a young man named Reverend A.J. Thomas. And he came to me one day and he said, Cynthia, or Cindy, instead of Dr. Taylor. And he said, Cynthia, I want you to do some big pictures for us for church on the 14 stations of the cross. And I said, okay, what are the 14 stations of the cross?
Being a Protestant, you didn't know.
No, being a Protestant, I didn't know. And he said, there's a whole exhibit over at this Episcopal church in this place called Valley Cruces. I said, yeah. So they had the 14 Stations of the Cross done by Noyes Long hanging there on permanent exhibition. AJ's idea was that we put up an exhibit once a year on Good Friday for our people in the community to see. And it's become a tradition every year that we only take this exhibit out once a year.
So Cynthia's the one that created the exhibit that's at United Methodist. It will be available at that point on that day. And so, do you know the date?
I don't. It's the Good Friday before Easter, whatever the day is. I do know it's free of charge.
And you just come in.
Yeah, anyone, anytime, I think from 9 to 5 or 9 to 7 can come in, any denomination. We love just people who have the heart of a sojourner can come in, and they can get a little booklet at the lectern in front of the church and quietly go around in
appreciate
peace
these
and
pieces.
Silence and stand in front of each
Now these
picture.
are large pieces of art.
Yes, I'd say they're probably twice the size of your Watauga Arts Council picture up here, and they're framed. We had a wonderful person and persons in our community, Cheap Joe's Art Stuff, Cheap Joe's, that helped us frame them.
Right.
And our Sunday school class called the Upper Room put the frames together, and then they're taken out every year and hung for people in our area to come and see them.
So your legacy's going to live right on.
I hope so, but the legacy that we wanted to live is the legacy of this old tradition of going as a sojourner to see the 14 stations.
And now folks have an opportunity to have their own exhibit because you're selling for the first time. You're selling images or prints.
Prints.
Yeah, quality prints. And they're on what weighted paper did you say?
80 pounds.
Right, so these are substantial.
9 by 12 inch, so they're ready to go in a quick, easy little frame.
And how much are they?
$30.
$30 each, okay.
That includes shipping cost. And I was telling Cherry when she called me last night, was it? I have so many orders that came in yesterday just off my Facebook. I'm going to have to hire someone to help me to get them back to you if you'd like to order them.
But we will accomplish that.
Yeah,
so if
we're
you're
going to
interested
accomplish
in having
that, yes.
Right. Now, let's talk a little bit more about these. They were pen and ink.
Pen and ink.
And very large pen and inks, and of course the image has been taken down to this size, and you can purchase them yourself. And of course, I could just imagine having a whole wall of these framed images, one right after another, would be really, really cool. Or if you want to do them in the right order down a hallway or something, there's a lot of options here. Or if there's just one of them that really speaks to you and you want to have just that one, you can get just one, or as many as you choose. And there's like you said, a guide to going through these, and so you're hoping to have those available as well.
Cherry asked me, was I going to put these in with the reproductions? And I said, yes, that's a good idea, Cherry.
Yeah. So, well, the reason for it is because that it gives you an explanation or something to go with each one of these pictures. It's not just a picture. It gives you a little bit more to go from. You want to walk through the 14 stations real quickly for me and just briefly tell me what each one of them is and in the right order so that people can...
in the right order,
yeah, so that people can... Well, I'm hoping that people will understand how it was put together. And I will say this, too. It sounds... You've talked about this before because we've just done a radio interview with the same thing. And it sounds like Cynthia herself did a lot of growing during the time. And I think that the point I want to make there is that, you're using your art to enrich the lives of other people, but just by creating it, it enriched your own life. So I think that's something that's really cool about the arts is that they have such a way of speaking to people's hearts in so many different ways. So talk about this one.
Okay. We still have people, I understand, that come to Jerusalem every year making a pilgrimage at Easter time to take themselves exactly to the place where they believe Jesus started that journey to Golgotha on the cross. And we don't know where the resurrection occurred, and so I had to pray real hard to get an image in my head of what that might have looked like. We have paintings here now on exhibit every Good Friday, and you don't have to go all the way to Jerusalem to see them. You can come to this church and just go step by step, and the little booklet gives you a traditional prayer if you'd like, or you can just meditate as you stand in front of it, or just come see it and enjoy it. So I'll take you through these right quick. I have to have my little booklet to remember what I drew in 2007.
But you told me that you drew them in the order, too, of the actual stations. Okay, so the first one you drew was what?
The first one was Jesus is Condemned to Death, and I did use a little help from Rembrandt on this one. And you see Jesus standing on a dais, and he's been condemned to death, and people are at that time shouting, crucify him, crucify him. The second one is Jesus takes up his cross, and this is where you see Jesus timidly putting his arms around the cross and trying to lift this heavy load. Onlookers jeering at him. The third one is Jesus falls the first time, and this is where you see him lifting the cross, but Christ is beginning to trip over the gravel. The fourth station was the most difficult one for me to try. It was really tough. I asked a young man at church with a beard, and at that time we didn't have a lot of people with beards, and I said, can you please pose for me to sketch a picture of Jesus? And he said no, and his face turned red and he left. So I got a DVD to look at. And then I had to pray because I thought, how am I going to draw a picture of Jesus' face? But the thing that really helped me was to think of what Christ would have looked like if he were an average young man looking down at his mom She's discouraged, she's frightened, she's worried about him, and he's saying, Mom, it's okay. So after he consoles his mom, you see a sketch in pen and ink that I did of the cross being laid on Simon of Cyrene, or Cyrene. And there's a soldier that says, carry his cross. A husky man lifts the cross for Christ, and you think, oh, he's going to get some help now.
Keep going.
Sixth station, we'll get through this. Sixth station, a woman wipes the face of Jesus. Now, we don't know this for sure, but we imagine that as he walked through these crowds carrying this heavy cross, his back was bleeding, and we know there was must have been a lot of blood and perspiration, and legend has it that a woman came up and wiped his face. The next one that the person is able to go see in this exhibit is they stand in front of a large picture again of Christ as Jesus falls the second time, and you see him tripping and the pebbles flying as he stumbles. The eighth station is where Jesus meets the woman of Jerusalem, or the women, and it shows them taking time out and assuring these women that everything is all right, God's will is going to be done. And this reminds me, and I don't mean to be sacrilegious, I know that this is the Station of the Cross with Christ in 14 pictures, but I do know that Cherry Johnson answers the phone a lot, and she has to stop from doing her emails to be personable and to tell people about art here in Watauga County. This is a story where, of course, we're telling the story of Jesus as it took place in Jerusalem. The ninth station is where Jesus falls for a third time. And this may be one of the most discouraging that we see in his journey. He's fallen, he's down on the ground. Christ doesn't know whether he can lift that cross up, but the cross is lifted up, and unfortunately it was lifted up with an image of Jesus. He's stripped of his garments. I had to pray before that one so that I would have some sort of insight in how to depict Christ on the cross. So I saw him hanging there, Cherry, with just light surrounding him.
And that was the 10th image, right?
Yeah, this is the 10th image, and you see the soldiers and they're casting lots. We think that's like dice.
Right.
And they were casting lots because they said they wanted to take his garment. Well, that was the last thing that Jesus had to give except his life. The 11th station of the cross is one that was also very difficult for me to do.
I would imagine.
And this is where Jesus is nailed to the cross. Now, I don't have permission from my husband to say this, but the story is too good for me not to share with the audience, Cherry, so I'll share it. I couldn't figure out how to draw the nails being nailed into Christ's hands onto the cross. And so I said, honey, would you mind posing for me for Christ getting the nails into his cross? And I need someone with strong arms nailing those nails into the cross. And he said, I'm not posing for a soldier crucifying Christ. So he said, go get your DVD and look at it and draw from the DVD. So that's what I did, again, with a lot of prayer. The last one,
The 12th
one that we'll talk about is probably the saddest and the most reverent. A tradition has it that when a sojourner sees this last one, that it's that last eve where he's hanging on the cross and Christ says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? Now, the exhibit that we show here in Boone at United Methodist, we put a kneeling bench in front of this large pen and ink, and the sojourner can kneel and say a word of prayer at this very austere time. This is also the time in all our churches where we hang black veils around the church in honor of that horrible time there. He doesn't stay on the cross, and in the 10th station you do see
The 13th station.
Yeah, excuse me, is that the 13th station?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. You're going to help me on that. That's the 13th station. And once again, I did go to a very well-known sculpture, and I used Michelangelo's Madonna and Child, where she's holding the dead body of Christ. The most beautiful thing, I think, of all of it is our hope for Easter, our hope that things are going to get better, that we have a newness of life, that we can try again, and that's what we all celebrate is Easter. Easter eggs are great, but the hope that Christ did arise from the grave is there. And for this one, it was easy to do because all I needed to do was figure out what that stone might have looked like when it was rolled away from the tomb of Christ. And I was able to draw the face of a woman who would have loved Christ, Mary Magdalene. As I drew her, I made Mary Magdalene looking away, and I have a sunrise up above the sunset and snuck in a little bit of our mountains behind that tomb, and you see the sun rising so that you have an image of a scene with hope. She's turning and she's saying, "They've taken my Lord," and she's running back to the apostles to tell them to come and look at this with her. And when you look at it, that's the miracle of the resurrection. And I think all of us in our lives want to find a miracle in our life, that we're going to have hope after something really bad happens to us.
So you've taken these images that people have been appreciating for the last several years, and then you've turned them into purchasable size of these, so everyone can have their own copies if they want. Now, the reason you're doing this, though, isn't just because you want to sell them. It's because you have a purpose for this money. Tell us about that.
Okay. I'm newly retired. I've worked with people who have visual impairments for over 30 years now. And I love to go out in our community and help someone that's just been diagnosed with macular degeneration or glaucoma, and they don't know what to do. There may not be a cure for it. A lot of the modern things that are being worked on now haven't been perfected, and they really don't have hope also, just like a lot of us didn't have hope in our lives, and we saw this in Christ's life. So I said, how am I going to make enough money for gas money to keep going out and helping these folks? And I know that for years, you, Cherry, have worked to help artists have enough money to do their art.
Absolutely.
So this was the case where I wanted to have enough money to take the best art materials out, just like Cheap Joe's helped us get art materials to do this, and work with that person to maximize the use of their eyes that they still had left.
Right.
Needed a little gas money. So I thought if I sell these on Facebook, my friends will send in some gas money, and I'll have fun, and everybody will have a little exhibit that they could put up on their office walls, their church, or in their home. And I got so many orders, I'm going to have to get someone to help me to get these mailed out to you guys.
But the purchase money is going to be used so that you can help people who have sight problems use the arts, which is kind of an interesting, it is possible to do that. As a matter of fact, I saw, and I'm sort of changing the subject here just a hair, but I saw a video recently of a blind man who does these magnificent paintings. So it's not, you don't have to have perfect vision to do the arts. You don't have to have a perfect body to do the arts. That's what you have spent your career working on, is helping people to expand their world with the arts in different ways, despite anything going on in their lives. Because you said you did it for special populations, right?
I was able to do that in hospitals and nursing homes.
That's cool.
In Illinois, where I went after I got my first degree here in art education. And so I went outside of Chicago and was able to get a chance to work with people there in a larger population. When we came back home to Boone, this was a small area, and I was just happy to be able to work, get a job, and teach young teachers how to go out and teach art to our average kids in public schools, and maybe even a college student or two.
So you're kind of, your world's kind of circling around all of these different things.
Yeah, and I want to remind you, I even taught your little boy one time.
That's true.
He came for a workshop, and he was about this high, and then we took a picture of him holding up his project at the end of it. And so I think he's grown since then, hasn't he?
Just a few
Cherry?
feet. A few feet.
A little bit. He's taller than Mommy now.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. He's 19. He's bigger. He's going to shoot me.
I know we're both going to get shot over this.
Yeah.
Even though it is a very sacred topic for our art that we're talking about
So
today.
you're going to make it so that folks can call the Arts Council at 264-1789 to get their
If you don't
images
mind.
that way. And then,
Help me out.
Yeah,
Say
and
the
I'll
number
pass
again.
it on to Cynthia is what I'll do.
I'll mail it to you.
Yeah.
She's going to take the phone calls.
And I'll catch it and get it over there. And so if you would like to do that, you can also email me at wcac@watauga-arts.org, and I can get you some information. Cynthia has a Facebook page. She doesn't have a website per se,
No.
but she has a Facebook page. And so if you look up on Facebook Cynthia Taylor, you can actually see some of these
Right.
images, on your Facebook page.
Yeah.
So.
They can open up the folder, and it's just entitled 14 Stations of the Cross, and that way they get to see digital images of each picture that they're allowed to.
So you can make your selections and
Yes,
decide, yeah.
and in fact, they're not only allowed, we encourage them if they would like to help us out, and they're on beautiful 9 by 12 inch, 80-pound paper. So you see those black and white pen and ink sketches, and you can get an idea of how you like to use
Right.
them.
So I encourage you to get some of this, and a copy of these images of this locally created work that Cynthia has done and that you might be able to enjoy for many, many years to come, or to give us a gift. And so, Cynthia, I want to thank you for coming and sharing with us.
I appreciate it.
All
Thank
right.
you.
And I hope you'll check our website, watauga-arts.org. There's a whole lot going on in the arts in our community. It has been one crazy busy week at the Arts Space, and the next several are going to be the same way. You need to be part of the action, so check it out.
Watauga Arts Council with your host, Cherry Johnson, serving arts in Watauga County for more than 30 years.